Hello and welcome back. In IAM Lesson 5, we're going to talk about IAM roles, and specifically how to create, use, and manage IAM roles, understand IAM roles and how they are used, and finally, we're going to check in on our Project Omega requirements to make sure that we are fulfilling everything that we need to for Project Omega. So again, to quickly recap about IAM and how it's used, we've already discussed users and policies, groups and policies, and now we're going to talk about roles. So let's take a look again at our current IAM setup where we have Kunal, Matt, and Donna as our three users. They are currently all members of a group called Dev, and they have access to S3 through an IAM S3 full access policy that is attached to the group. Now, roles are a bit different in that, let's say, for example, that we have an EC2 instance, which it's okay if you don't know what that is right now, but basically this is a virtual server, and we're going to dive deep into EC2 in a future section. But this is a service as opposed to a user. So let's say that there's software running on an EC2 server, and that software needs to access information that is in an S3 bucket. So we have one AWS service trying to communicate and talk with another AWS service. Now you may just think, well, let's just assign the S3 policy, and that will grant access to the S3 bucket. But with AWS services, you can't directly assign policies to other AWS services. First, you need to attach a role, and then to the role, you can attach policies. What the role does, in essence, is give permissions to another AWS service to almost act as a user. So we can assign a role to an EC2 instance that has the S3 full access policy attached to it, thus granting the EC2 instance access to S3. Now to do that, we come over to the navigation and click on roles, and we're going to create a new role. We can call this EC2. Click on next. And here, there's going to be many different options for AWS service roles. And we see here the very first one is Amazon EC2, and this allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. So since we want to use this role for EC2 instances, we will have to select the EC2 service role. If, for example, we're using AWS Lambda and we wanted to give AWS Lambda access to S3, we would create a role and choose the AWS Lambda service role to create that role. But for this, we're going to click Amazon EC2. And now here, we're going to type in S3, and we're going to assign the Amazon S3 full access policy to the EC2 role, thus giving EC2 instance. Once we would attach the role to the instance, it would give it permissions to access S3. So you can almost think of roles as a group, but for other AWS services as opposed to AWS users. And finally, let's take a look at Project Omega and see if we have completed all the tasks that are required for this section. So user accounts for the development team with access to core AWS services, 3 IAM user accounts, 1 for each member of the dev team. Yep, we've done that. An IAM group for the dev team. We have done that. IAM policies attached to the group granting access to S3, EC2, and RDS. Now, we haven't done all of that yet. We've only attached a policy granting access to S3 to the group. So now let's go through and attach the other policies. We'll click on the dev group, and again, it only currently has the S3 full access policy assigned to it. So we want to attach an EC2 policy and an RDS policy. So again, we can just go to attach policy. We'll type in EC2, and we'll type in F for full. There we go, EC2 full access. And then we will do the same for RDS full access. Great, we have now fulfilled all the requirements for Project Omega in this section. And with that, we will conclude section 2 of AWS Essentials, in which we covered identity and access management. So moving back to our main diagram, we have now finished the account basics section, the IAM section, and next we are going to move into VPC. And with that, we will conclude this video and conclude this section. Thank you for watching. You may now move on.